Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a July 17th edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. It's summertime, at least here on this side of the world. Thank God. And finally, the weather, has gotten warm out. But man, I feel like I'm still in a monsoon here in the Northeast for some reason. Like, I guess us and, you know, um, who's down there? New Orleans. I think we switched weather with New Orleans. Like it's just constantly like in the marsh and in the bayou. I don't know. Something's weird. But anyway, welcome to another edition here. Some housekeeping that we get done at the beginning of all of these, and then we get into the good stuff. MSPinitiative.com. That's where you're going to see pretty much what we're up to over here. We did a couple of events live last month. We had DattoCon in Dublin. That was awesome. It was our third year in a row there. Love Dublin. Somehow, I feel like we switched weather with Dublin. Dublin's weather was great this year. So thankfully that happened well. I'm told that next year that conference is moving to Prague. So if you haven't been to Prague, pro tip, a pint of beer is less than $1. That's birthplace of the Pilsner beer, if you didn't know. It's a thing. So that was awesome. You can check out all the photos and videos from that event online, mspinitiative.com. We also did a block party with the Flow conference down in Tampa with our friends from Roost. Second year on that event. First year us working with them on an event on our side. Went really well. Tampa weather, hot as you can imagine, but I enjoyed it. So you can check out that on mspinitiative.com too. All the albums and photos and videos are posted. We'll be down at ChannelCon, the Global Technology Industry Association, formerly known as CompTIA. Do I get to say it's like formerly known as Prince? I don't know. So ChannelCon will be down there hanging around. So if you're down there, let us know. Love to meet up. A couple events coming up between now and the end of the year. We have the Channel Sports Tour. So Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Kansas City, and Los Angeles. We're coming to you, NFL, as well as Dublin. I think we're coming back to Dublin because we love it so much. The first NFL game in Dublin. So if you happen to be in any of those cities, we have wait lists. If you're interested in joining us, definitely sign up. We have DattoCon in Miami. At the Fountain Blue again. We're taking over Live Nightclub, which apparently is the go-to place on South Beach to get in. So we bought that place out again. We're going to throw another rager. So definitely register ahead of time. You find that at mspinitiative.com. And then lastly, DattoCon in Sydney is where we end our in-person events for the year. Was great last year. They moved to a larger venue down in Sydney, so we made sure we moved accordingly. So we're looking forward to going down under and seeing our friends down there. So there it all is. MSPinitiative.com. You can check all that stuff out, dates, times, locations, all that good stuff. So housekeeping's out of the way. Welcome back. Second time on our podcast here, Aaron Peterik from Zero Networks, formerly a sneaker pro guy. We'll joke about that for a second. How you doing today, Aaron?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. It is really good to see you again.
Absolutely. It's been
Yeah.
it's been a little bit. How's
Yeah.
everything going on your side?
These are great, man. I think the last time we did this, I don't know, it was about 6, 7 months ago. Something it was late last year. And so yeah, lots going on in the last, we'll call it 7 months since we last, spoke. And so yeah, things are good, man. Kids are healthy, weather's beautiful, job is great. And so yeah, what else can you ask for?
I don't know that this weird weather I have here in the Northeast. I got to figure it out. But it's
Yeah, you guys
definitely a
are you
lot
guys
a
are
lot
getting it.
rainy and a lot cold. And this year's just been like the first 6 months of the year have just been weird. But what do you got to do?
Yeah.
I was actually telling some travel nightmares as we all have them. But I was headed out to an event in Grand Rapids. I was flying out of Newark. It was the only direct flight I could get at the time, and 20 minutes out from Newark, and I get your flight's been canceled notice, right? I'm like, all right, awesome. And so I was like, why did they cancel this? Well, it was like some crazy storm that was coming in, rain, 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 right? It actually flooded the New Jersey Turnpike, I'm told, but whatever.
Hmm.
So I redirect and drive down to Philly. I'm on my way to Philly. I'm getting a flight, from Philly through Chicago to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they're like, "Oh, this plane's going to be delayed. You're going to miss your connector in Chicago." I'm like, "Super." I turn around. I fly out of a very small, like regional airport north. And I was able to get out to Chicago, and then the Grand Rapids got there at some crazy like 1 o'clock in the morning. But guess we all have those travel
Yeah.
nightmares.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm telling you, travel these days has just been insane. Like just, airports closing and all the weather and stuff, like massive delays, tons of cancellations. And yeah, I mean, you can't escape it these days, it seems like.
Yeah, and then for a while, I don't know if you're following it. I largely fly out of Philly because that's my home airport. It's where I'm at. And then sometimes I'll fly out of Newark, especially like from going international, and anything I can get direct, I'll take.
Mhm.
And it's not New York, right? I feel, for anybody that has to drive to JFK, like Jen, and other people, right, or LaGuardia, like unless you're coming down from the top, going through a bridge or a tunnel, I strongly discourage you from trying that. But I digress. So between those two airports, I usually get everywhere I need to go, and I guess they had some sort of like air traffic control thing going on, and like Newark was like, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're reducing flights out of Newark." I was like, "Okay, all right, message received. I'll stick to flights out of Philly," and there you go.
Yeah.
This is my first try since all that, and it didn't work out.
Yeah. What airline do you normally fly?
My buddy there, Alec, is Mr. Delta,
Yeah.
but not a lot of good options here in Philly area for Delta. So, you American or
American.
United, right? American usually out of Philly, United usually at a Newark there, and
Yeah.
like whatever's a direct flight, right?
Yeah.
That's usually what I do. And we play all the games, right? The credit cards and the rewards programs and all that jazz. I still value my Chick-fil-A reward status more than my airline reward status, but what can I say?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, we
Check.
I'm in Denver, and we've lived here for about 10 years now, which is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. So I need to stop calling Chicago my home and probably start calling Denver my official home because I've lived here longer than there in Chicago. But yeah, we I used to be a Delta guy myself. I used to live in cities that were all Delta hubs like Minneapolis and so forth, and love Delta. When I moved out here, I was like, it's like they're just, I mean, there aren't, nearly as many options. And so when you're in Denver, it's, you're usually flying Southwest or United. United has got the big hub out here and a really nice terminal and stuff that they're updating. It's taken several years to do that, but the beautiful thing about Denver is not
All
just the
is
weather
Denver
and
is
everything, the
security,
mountains,
but the
but
security out of Denver, that airport, man, I don't know. It's always
rough.
crazy.
It's gotten better. It's gotten a little bit better. They have more security gates now, but yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that the construction is done at the airport. But
It feels like it's been under construction for like 10 years.
yeah, it definitely feels like that.
Hmm.
But the beautiful thing about Denver, flying in and out of Denver, is when you live here, you can fly direct pretty much anywhere, which is awesome. So I can't tell you the last time I did not take a direct flight somewhere. So that's the beautiful thing. So when I go overseas, I'll sometimes have to pass through one of those New York airports occasionally, but that's okay. So anyways.
Right on. So, what's new at Zero Networks? So first, maybe for people who didn't watch the last one of these, who Zero Networks is relatively new to MSP land, right? So maybe a little bit of background there, but like, what do they need to know, right? What's changed, and why would they look at Zero Networks?
Yeah. So first and foremost, for anyone not familiar with Zero Networks is a network security company that specializes in network segmentation, identity segmentation, and we also have a solution in the secure remote access space. If you're looking to replace like a VPN or a ZTNA product as well, but our bread and butter is in network segmentation, and so the majority of partners I talk to today are using VLANs to segment their network to essentially try to stop lateral movement, prevent lateral movement. As we know, it's not a matter of if you get breached; it's just when it happens. What do you have, inside your network to prevent them from, going from machine to machine and ultimately taking everything that they want, right? How do you stop that east-west traffic? And to do that, the most effective way is through segmentation. And historically, MSPs, the only option that MSPs have ever had to do that from a segmentation standpoint is utilizing VLANs and or manually creating network access control lists or so forth. Which is a very manual process. You got to download agents, you got to do all sorts of stuff. And so Zero Networks has come into the market recently and is allowing MSPs and customers to segment their network at the lowest level possible, which is at the device level or at the identification level. And we allow you to do that without downloading any agents. We essentially do that automatically for you. We create the rules and policies for you after a period of learning. It's all automated. Onboarding is usually just a couple meetings where we sit down and essentially deploy a server in the network to monitor and learn all the movements. That server is going to auto create rules and policies for you. It's going to customize those for each of your networks because, as we all know, every customer's network is very unique. And so we create customized rules and policies based on the movement and based on the traffic. And then the other cool thing that we have a patent on that no one else in the world can do is MFA. We actually can put MFA on any connection in your network at the port level. And so if you want to stop anyone from accessing that server that has PII information on it or whatever those crown jewels are, we do that on day one. And then anyone that is allowed to have access to a server like that, for example, has to first validate who they are via MFA. And we are very much a live off the land solution. So we just tie into whatever MFA solution provider you use. After you validate who you are on your phone or online, then you get just-in-time access to that connection or to that server in this example. And then after that time passes, that port closes again and you're safe. So it's another way, sort of a security blanket to ensure that even if someone is in your network, one, they can't move around your network because of the rules and policies that we've created for you and how we've segmented that at the device level. And then we're adding that extra layer of security on it with an MFA as well. So
I'll be honest. I've been around for a minute or two. I've never heard of MFA at the port level before. This is the first time.
yeah, well, we have a patent on it. It's a really cool thing, and so that was one of the reasons. So I've been at Zero Networks for about a year, and that was a big reason that I came over and joined Zero Networks because I was like, I don't see anything else like this in the channel. This is something that every MSP that I've ever talked to in my career certainly needs and can utilize. And it's again, it's a live off the land type of a product, right? Which is awesome. You're not having to do all these different downloads and all these different things and managing and everything. It's automated and it just works. And so that's sort of a little overview of Zero Networks. We since we last spoke, I think again 7-8 months ago, whenever it was, we've had a lot happen in that 7 or 8 months. We launched at PAX 8 officially back in January, so that's been great. So if you're a PAX 8 partner out there, which I know a lot of you are, so you can go out and check us out there. You can see see our solutions and our pricing and get some resources and all that stuff. So that's been a great partnership to go back there and work with a lot of the friends that I have over there. We recently announced a partnership with Palo Alto. So I know everyone out there knows Palo Alto, one of the biggest network security solutions out there. So that's been an exciting partnership. We recently won Partner Program Guide winner from CRN. So that's like our second or third year in a row for doing that. So, we're a very channel friendly company, so that's some cool recognition. We were recognized as a top 10 cybersecurity startup company recently. We were recognized as a top 10 hottest product for MSPs earlier in the year. So just lots of cool things happening, a ton of growth happening. All sorts of partners are starting to learn more about Zero Networks and reach out to us and protect their customers' environment. So lots of cool stuff going on in the work front. Early in the year, I was recognized as a channel chief, which which is a really cool recognition for me. I know when I first got into this channel, I obviously saw the channel chiefs announcements and awards and everything that happen each year, and I was like, that's a really cool achievement. I don't know how to do that, how to get there, but hopefully one day I can get there, and so that was sort of a cool personal achievement for me that I had earlier this year as well. So yeah, lots of great stuff happening. Our partner base is growing month over month. We're at all sorts of events, throughout the year. So if you go to events, make sure you look up Zero Networks, or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll find a time to get together in person.
Awesome. So, I mean, I'm going to rewind just a little bit, but it seems like last time we talked, and I thought about this after we talked, 7 months ago, like an enterprise concept, right? Like most of the time when you're talking about how networks are configured, especially in the sub 100 employees, sub 150 employees setup, right? Pretty flat, right? Like the VLANing that you're talking about is largely done for, just segmenting things like voice from data or access points from
An
LAN.
organization technique,
Yeah,
technically.
exactly. Just, plumbing. That's how I like to categorize it. But like when you're talking about lateral movement, right? We're talking about like let's go into something as simple as and this is my perception. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But like when I go into my Windows firewall rules, and it's like, hey, there's three profiles, right? Anybody who's been in IT knows that if you go into Windows firewall, it's like public profile, domain profile, and like there's like a third category, right? And like other than the public categorization for the internal traffic, it's always just allow,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's just wide open. And so when you're talking about lateral network movement, like, usually how this security conversation works is, somebody, like a human being behind the keyboard and the mouse does something bad, right? And like maybe they didn't do it on purpose, maybe they did, but most of the time it's like they got tricked into doing something they shouldn't have done, right? Clicked on something, opened up an email, they got spoofed, whatever. And then they got something on their machine, workstation, even mobile device. Now it's a little harder to track, but something, some device, tablet, and that device is on the inside of your network, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when your network is flat and the rules are, hey, inside traffic is good, right? Like we don't care about that. We don't even really care about out, traffic going out. We just care about traffic coming in, right?
Right.
It's an older approach, but that's generally what people have done, right? Put some sort of firewall from the outside to the inside, but like then it stopped, right? Very few people even set up filtering out of their company, right? Like they just let that traffic go unfiltered, right? So when you talk about lateral movement, you're talking about what happens once you're inside, right? Workstation to workstation, workstation to printer, workstation to whatever else is on the inside network. And there's, we could talk about all those different devices. So, so is your program, your technology, is this like a physical application, something that gets plugged into my switching infrastructure, or is this software? Like, what happens in order to create this, kind of extra security layer that says, wait a minute, we don't want open access flat network.
Yeah, great question. So no, it's just a software. So what we do is on day one, so our deployment for all this takes about 45 minutes. After deployment, you can get you can have your network fully segmented. Depends on how many assets and devices you have and how complex it is, but you can have your entire network segmented within weeks. This used to take years to do, and that's why it's really been sort of an enterprise offering historically. And so the way that we do this is we essentially just tie into the firewalls already on it. So again, we are very much a live off the land type of a product. And so what we do is we essentially are looking at the traffic and gathering the metadata passing through the firewalls. So all the workstations, all the servers that have firewalls already embedded in them, we're basically just sort of taking over those firewalls, and then creating rules between those firewalls. So that's how we're sort of able to do that automation without the need to download agents. There are certain cases where you absolutely have to download an agent, and we can do that as well. There's no added cost for that. But 93% of all assets that we segment globally are done through our agent list approach, and that's how we've been able to offer this to the MSP channel. There are other vendors that offer micro segmentation out there. Um, uh, 99% of MSPs, when they ask who those are and I say who it is, they don't know, they've never heard of them. And that's because they're not a fit for this channel. They don't focus on the channel. They don't focus on the SMB market because they know that they're just not a fit, right? The way the MSPs go to market, the number of customers that they have to manage, right? Downloading an agent for across 100 customers, and the number of endpoints that has is a full-time job and would take years and years. And so our agentless model, the way that we do this, again, by tying through the firewalls, allows us to do this automatically and very, very quickly. We can actually segment right away, but we always want to go through this monitoring and learning phase that we call it, so we can see the traffic happening. Because there are some connections that happen on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly, or even a monthly basis, right? So we want to make sure that we're capturing all those things before we actually move into segmentation mode. The other cool thing that we offer too is we can actually segment OT or IoT devices too, right? So this webcam that I'm talking into right now can be segmented, right? Now, OT, IoT devices don't have firewalls embedded in them, right? And so the way that we control that traffic is through the switch that's tied to. And so we're able to segment literally all the devices in your network. And OT devices, IoT devices, has actually been a really good use case for us recently because, OT devices have been a growing target for threat actors to get into a network. And the reason is, when was the last time that you did any kind of security patch on an OT device, right, or an IoT device, right? Your EDR provider is not monitoring OT devices, and so that is a massive vulnerability for most customers that we talk to. And so you can segment those out so that anyone, can't access, that security camera in the corner of your office or the webcam. So, we're able to, create inbound and outbound rules on any device in the network. A couple other sort of use cases that have been really popular recently. I was talking to a customer at Exchange, I don't know, a few months ago down in Orlando, whenever that was. We had dinner, and this partner had a customer who was in manufacturing that had been breached a couple times, and this customer was breached because they have very old servers, right? They had servers that were like 20, 30 years old, and for this customer, in order to upgrade their servers, it was going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they just didn't have that. And so this partner was really trying to find a way to protect this customer's environment. They're a manufacturing company, so they have a ton of OT devices out on the floor and on their manufacturing floor. And so we talked to them, and so they're obviously a new partner of ours, and so we are segmenting both their their entire network, but we're able to segment their OT devices, but because of their very old server, you can either go out and get a new server and spend hundreds of $1,000s, or just control that server via segmentation and control the inbound and outbound traffic from that. So even if someone does get into that old server, they're not able to leave that server and go across the network. So that's been a popular use case for us, as well as the last one I'd highlight is old operating systems. Right. I think we all, I think every MSP I've talked to has that one customer that just refuses to upgrade their Windows. Right. They're still running Windows 2000 and have systems, online that are, just very old and haven't been patched in a while and so forth. And so segmentation helps in that case as well.
So when you say firewalls and switches, like, is there an interoperability concern there? What if one guy's using, you said Palo Alto, you said the thing. What if they're using Checkpoint, SonicWall, WatchGuard, Sophos, right? I mean, there's so many of them out there. I could keep going, but like, not everybody's using the same manufacturer. Not everybody's using the same version under the same manufacturer. And the
Mhm.
same could be said for switching, right? I mean, they could have anything from the, I don't know, Staples neck gear cheap buy because something broke and they had to put something in last second to layer two, layer three, layer four. I mean, how much you have to spend goes all the way up to think layer seven, layer eight, but like not talking cheap at this point, right? We're talking about pretty enterprise stuff.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of MSPs that service, small, medium business land, like could be using Dell switches, could be using, HP switches, could be still be using Linksys or Cisco branded switches. I mean, it's all over the map, right? So how do you make sure that your system can do what it's doing from, the potpourri of different, systems out there?
Yeah, that's part of our early calls is to understand what their network looks like, what kind of switches they have, and all that kind of stuff. Because while our list of switches and firewalls and all that kind of stuff that we support is growing, right? It is a very long list, as you just mentioned, and so on our website you can see which ones we support, and which ones we don't today. But yeah, it is a long list, and so that's why on our early calls with all of our partners, we always ask them and look to understand what they have to see if we can support that or not.
And I assumed like in order for your software to work, it has to be some sort of managed switch, right? Like it can't, like a switch with no intelligence to it, like a dummy, switch with that you can't log into. I assume that nothing you can do there.
Correct. Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about remote or home workers? I know that like that's largely inverted, right? Like people have been forced back to the office for sure, for sure. But like there's still people who work maybe a couple days a week, right? Or maybe me and you work out of an airport a lot, right? Like what do you do with
Mhm.
those people?
Yep. Yep. So we also have a product. Again, it's called Connect. It's a secure remote access solution. Very similar. It's like a VPN or a ZTNA. And so we have that for like remote users in order to get into the network. But as far as like from a segmentation standpoint, we can create rules and policies, or if it's like an at-home device, we can segment those as well. So once those come online, then those can then be applied, the rules and policies that we already have. So it gets a little complicated in that situation. But yeah, our secure remote access solution called Connect has actually been a very popular solution in the MSP channel. I would say it's been more popular than I even expected when I first came over, because again, Zero Networks is primarily known as a segmentation company, but Connect has been very popular for MSP specifically because of all the attacks on VPNs these days. And a lot of partners are really looking to
And
upgrade.
we can stop about 10 days ago with Ingram Micro.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
mean,
right.
like
Yeah,
that's as current day as we can make it, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how much you've read about it. Like I think we all kind of read bits and pieces as we're going about our days, but I think their VPN solution, I think, was at least I don't know if it's been updated. I read that was what was the source of their problem, and then it grew from there, right? And so
Interesting. Yeah,
and so
yeah.
they had to, when they restored their systems, and again, you can fact check me, everyone, go and read all the publicly available information on it. But when they restored their systems, a lot of the employees of Ingram Micro said that they had to go into an Ingram Micro office location, in order to access their systems. Like they did not allow their workers to connect remotely anymore.
Mm. Oh wow, interesting.
So like this
Yeah.
is pretty topical.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, and yeah, Connect's been a great product for us. We have partners checking Connect out all the time, and again, it's a lot of interest in just trying to find a better version of a VPN. VPN's been around for like 60 years. I think it first came out in the 1960s, and VPN's really good for speed and connecting into a network. The issue with VPNs is they're not secure, and that's why we're seeing all these storylines come out. And again, threat actors know that, and so they're targeting VPNs because they know that if they can get access into the VPN, they'll get access into the network. And once they're in the network, as we sort of talked about earlier today, there's really very little things stopping any threat actor from moving around your network and moving east west, moving laterally, and so forth. And so yeah, a lot of partners are really interested in checking out and testing our Connect product. So the way our Connect product works is, um, it's sort of it's the speed of a VPN, but it has added layers of security, sort of like what a ZTNA solution has as well. Um, what we do is, the user would authenticate into the Zero Networks network via like MFA, and then what we do is we then open up a sort of like a VPN like port into the network for that user's IP address only, and so a secure tunnel is then established, based on those sort of predefined permissions that user already has, and so it's got the speed of a VPN, but what the security of a ZTNA is essentially what it's doing.
Interesting. So what do you tell people who say, "Hey, I can do some of what you're doing with application whitelisting, right?" Or, if you go into this, again, I know this is marketing, bear with me, right? This zero trust approach, right? Like, hey, I'm going to block everything. I'm only going to allow the applications that I say are good. Everything else is blocked by default. So realistically, some of what you say you're doing with segmentation, I'm going to do with this application whitelisting approach.
Yeah, that's certainly an option, right? And we see a lot of people doing that.
Hmm.
The problem with doing that, at least in my experience, and I'm not the expert when it comes to doing that stuff, but um, that's very manual and it's very static, right? Networks are moving all the time. People are coming in and out of the networks. Things are being added. Users are being removed or added, and so you need to be able to have a flexible way in order to manage the rules and policies that you're creating, what you're blocking, what you're not blocking, and and so yeah, you can go out and create static rules, and I want to block all of this and so forth, but what happens in 6 months when the network changes, right? You then need to go back and redo all that stuff, and so that's where like an automated platform that is continuously monitoring connections and allowing you to very quickly within seconds create rules and policies on what to block, what to allow, and so forth is critical these days, given the remote workers and all that stuff. So that's what I would say. Again, there are other ways to do this, but in my experience and the partners that we have, the customers that we have, what this does from an operational saving standpoint as well, has been massive for them, right? Because our automated engine is doing the work for them behind the scenes, allowing them to take care of their customers like they should be.
So when you're talking to an MSP and they're like, and this is probably a pretty common conversation, but you'll tell me if I'm crazy. Hey, I got small customers, I got medium customers, I got maybe one or two really large customers. I'm managing 50, 60, 70 accounts in different various sizes. Like, what is the smallest account size that makes sense for something like this?
It's I can't really answer that because it sort of depends on what their network looks like. We don't have any minimums, right? And so it's not like there's a minimum requirement of the number of servers or workstations or devices that they need to have,
Hmm.
right? What I would tell you is a lot of our customers are 50 to 100 employees or more. I would say typically, right? The thing that we run into with very small customers, right? A couple users, let's call it 10 users or less or devices, it's not much of a network, right? And so there isn't much segmentation that's going to really happen there. Is are they still a threat to be attacked? Absolutely, right? So if they have a server that has a lot of their company data on it, I would highly recommend that they at least segment the server. And so that's the other thing, right? If you have 1,000 devices in your network, let's say 200 servers, 800 workstations, and then let's add some OT devices, to that as well, printers, IoT devices, whatever. um, you can segment the devices that you want to segment, right? So you don't have to segment your entire network. And so what a lot of customers have done with us, they're like, this sounds a little too good to be true sometimes. And I get that because it is new. It's sort of a newer category to this space. So what they'll do is they'll segment their servers. They're like, we need to lock our servers down. This is where our crown jewels are. So they'll segment those servers first to sort of see what the experience is, see what the user interface looks like, what our support is, and all that kind of stuff. Sort of validate all the stuff that we have been talking to them about, and then from there, then they typically expand to their workstations, OT devices, and so forth. And so again, typically customer size, we're seeing, I would say, probably on the larger side of the small, medium-sized businesses. But that doesn't, that's not to say that there isn't a fit for, for some of the smaller customers that, that if they're attacked, they're going to likely go out of business.
Sure. What about people who have I don't know if hybrid's the right word, but let me just follow me here, right? Like they have Azure Virtual Desktop, Virtual Server, could be the AWS equivalent, the Google Cloud equivalent. Maybe it's a Citrix, style thing, whatever. And then, that's where their compute is happening, right? Their actual, of course, people still have to get there, right? They're remoting into that environment. And obviously, where the hybrid part comes into, and this is more to your comment of OT devices, right? If you have a physical building, there's got to be things like, I don't know, the door reader, right, for card access, the front door intercom, the copier machine, the postage meter, the security cameras, the whatever, right? All of that stuff that just grows over time, right? Now that bleeds into other lanes, right? Like now the newer physical security, like security system, or even the fire alarm has become IP based, right? So like all of a sudden, there's all these additional things you didn't think about on your network. I digress. Bottom line, or even you don't even think about this, but it's a thing, right? Like I don't know if you've gotten, the newer set top boxes from your like TV internet provider, right? Oh, that's IP now, right? Like it's all running over the network. If you scan the network, those boxes show up. But I digress. So like all the physical building stuff's local, right? But then they have probably some sort of VPN ish type technology that then brings that back to the environment in the cloud, right? At the virtual desktop, virtual server. So would this technology still help in that situation?
Yes. It's, we're getting sort of technical on that aspect a little bit,
Sure.
but but yes, I mean, we can create rules that block outbound traffic, or block inbound traffic to those devices. If your servers are in the cloud like you've described, that's fine. We can segment those as well. So it doesn't have to be a physical server, in the office. We work very well in the hybrid environments as well because of our sort of agentless approach that we talked about.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to think of the use cases, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I just did one of these last week with like Ionis. The name sounds familiar. Another
Yep.
Pax8
Oh yeah.
guy, vendor, supplier, and they're saying they're still running into a lot of MSPs. And I'm curious to see what your answer is, right? Maybe this is an old conversation that I'm sure a lot of people thought was in the past, but I said, hey, you're dealing with a lot of MSPs, and they got several hundred MSPs in their program, and I said, how many of them are totally in the cloud? He's like, minority. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, 50%, 40%, 30%. He's like, we still run into hundreds of MSPs a month who the majority of them still have something premise based. Like this whole everything's already in the cloud theory, not true. And I'm like, interesting. So you talk to a lot of MSPs all day long. If you were to put your finger in the air and say, what's the Aaron percentage? How many people do you talk to on a regular? Are you finding out that the MSPs really haven't migrated most of their workload to the cloud?
Yeah, I would say probably the majority have not completely migrated. Which it is interesting. It's an interesting conversation that you bring up there because yeah, I remember over the years, right, we're migrating everything to the cloud and we're getting away from servers and so forth. What I would say is I still hear that a fair amount. Have they fully migrated? No. Do they want to? Yes. But I'm also getting the flip side of that too, where it's like we fully migrated and yeah, we need local servers. Like we need, so it's sort of going back a little bit, sort of like trends do, right? Footwear trends go up and down and so forth, and people are wearing all the cool things from the 90s these days and stuff. So
That's
so
true.
these things tend to sort of fluctuate a little bit, but yeah, I would say the vast majority of MSPs that I talk to still have it for the most case, still, are still some on-premise servers and so forth that have not fully migrated to the cloud.
Interesting. Do you think a lot of that is like you had mentioned a couple of use cases before manufacturing and stuff where it's just cost prohibitive, but is that because of legacy systems or did they just do the math and they're like the math it's just not mathing, right? It's just exponentially more just to move it somewhere else and have it do the same thing.
I think that's right. I think that's right. I mean, it takes a lot of time and money to do that. And I mean, better than I do the amount of stuff that MSPs have on their plate on the daily basis and stuff. And it's like, all right, well, what are we going to sacrifice in order to get this to get this project done, right? And what are the benefits? Are the benefits outweighing the cost and the time that we need to do and invest to do this? So again, I think it's a move that a lot of MSPs want to do. But when it comes down to actually doing it and stuff, it's things other things tend to pop up in front of it.
That's fair. That's fair. So maybe the industry analysts, the talking heads, if we call them, maybe they, you know, didn't guess properly how quickly this migration of all cloud all the time was going to happen, huh?
Yeah, it would be a good study to understand that. I know a lot of people would be interested in that for sure.
Interesting. What do you think about this? I know it's all the rage now, right? Yesterday, cybersecurity, today, AI. You're around technology a lot. I think the adoption of AI from an MSP perspective is my guess 1%, 2, 3%. Like I'm not talking 12, 15, 20, 30, 50. Like just doesn't seem practical yet. What's your opinion?
I agree. I mean, it's an interesting topic because every event you go to, every event, right? It's all about AI, how to integrate, what are we doing here, from an MSP perspective. On the vendor side, every vendor is jumping on AI and saying they've been doing AI for 20 years and so forth, right? Um, you know, I use AI, right? For like, building different things and so forth. But from like an MSP perspective, I would love to hear from the MSP community on exactly how they're leveraging AI outside of like a chat GPT or Microsoft and so forth, to take notes in meetings and things like that, right? That's sort of the obvious one. But there's different, there's many ways that you can do it, but again, based on the amount that we talk about it and how many meetings and things there are at all these events around AI, you would certainly think it has more adoption than it does. Um, and again, I would love to hear from the channel on exactly how they're leveraging AI, and see how it's really benefiting them from an operational efficiency standpoint. I think from a ticketing perspective, I think it's going to be really good. I've heard a lot of MSPs sort of using it for support tickets and sort of being that sort of first line of I don't want to say defense, but that sort of first line of support there. So I can see a lot of value there. But yeah, it's an interesting subject and something that has been talked about for years. But again, based on the amount we've talked about it, in the amount of noise in the industry, you would think that the adoption and things would be a lot higher.
So do you think my guess is wrong? I'm thinking 1 to 3%. What's your guess?
As far as like full adoption,
Just any adoption.
yeah, yeah, mine would be higher,
Okay.
higher than that. I mean, if you're including, like note taking ability for meetings, I think that's pretty high these days. I think, I can't think of a single meeting that I've been on where, there wasn't someone logged in as like AI note taker or something, right? Depending on what solution you're using. So if you're including note taking in it, I would say that's pretty high. But if you're looking at beyond note taking, I would say, yeah, it's probably pretty low. I would probably venture in the 10% range myself.
Okay, got it. Um, I had somebody ask me just yesterday, and I know that this is a long-standing guess, but they're like, well, how big is the MSP space? And I'm like, I don't know. Some people say 50,000 unique companies. Some people say 150,000 unique. It's like I saw one slide that said 450,000 unique companies worldwide. I was like, I don't know what the right answer is. What's your answer? What do you think the actual number is?
Yeah, I sort of answer like you just did, honestly. I saw a number yesterday that said 88,000. I've seen numbers in the 50,000s. I've seen numbers in the 175,000 range, right? It's I think that question's hard because, what is an MSP, right? How do you define an MSP? Is the kid out of college, working in his mom's basement? Is that an MSP, right? What qualifies, all these companies as an MSP, right? A company that is 95% reseller, but has a small percentage of managed services. Are they an MSP or are they classified as a reseller, right? And so I think that's where it sort of gets squirrely because how are we defining MSPs these days? I think it's such a broad term, and there's so many variables to what an MSP does that it really skews the numbers.
That's fair. That's fair. I think where the numbers might start to get bigger is where they kind of just say, I don't care if they're reseller, integrator, VAR, MSP. Then you get into this MSSP, Managed Security Services Provider, and then you get into just CSP, Cloud Service Provider. And you take all these acronyms and you're like, nope, put it in the blender, hit the button. What's the number? That's where I think you get the stacking effect. But
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And for those that attended PAX 8 Beyond, they threw out a new acronym. Do you know what I'm referring to?
what is it? Managed Intelligence Provider.
There you go, the MIP now. So yeah, so these days it almost feels like if you're an MSP, that's old school. That's you got to be an MSSP or now an MIP. Like there's so many acronyms that
I, I feel like it's just everybody just so it's like the news companies, right? They're like, who's the first one to break the story? It's like,
yeah,
do we need more acronyms, guys? Like,
yeah,
are we government agencies now? All three letters? What's up? Like,
yeah,
okay, all right.
yeah,
So we'll throw that in the blender too.
yeah,
MIP.
yeah,
All right.
yep,
Okay. Do I throw
yep.
the copier guys, the surveillance guys, the door access guys in there too?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, are
Hmm.
they servicing customers? Are they providing services?
Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
managing
I
those
think so.
things? Then maybe, yeah, right,
All right. I mean, that's where this number is a question mark, I think.
yeah,
But okay.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see like what the next like between now we're in what 25. Like I'm curious to see what 2030 looks like.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
what happens in between now and then. But we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
A lot
Uh,
of, I'm sure there'll be a lot of change. I'm sure there'll be a lot of change.
we'll see. More acronyms, I think.
Yeah. Before we
Uh,
hop off, I wanted to congratulate you on your birds. Uh, Super Bowl champs. You got it there too. There you go. Okay. Of course, you're wearing a Super Bowl champ shirt. Won the Emmy last night, or the
SB,
SP
yeah,
last night
I saw
for
that.
the
That was
best.
awesome.
So yeah, if you haven't checked out the ESPYS, that's I would check that out. That's some good comedy there.
You're an ex sneaker professional. What do you think about Jalen Hurts and the Jordan brand?
Look, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I think
Okay.
Michael Jordan is a businessman. Actually, I don't know if I'll have to take a look at what those shoes look like. I don't know if I've seen those yet. Are they good looking?
I mean, listen, this guy has a whole, like, I feel like everybody has something, right? Somebody comes out with the fashion or this or makeup, and
Yeah,
the sports players that come out with sunglasses or sneakers or whatever, right? It's like all the rage come out with your own line of something. Obviously, the Jordan sneakers have been around for a long time. I mean, in Philly, we were fond of the Iverson sneaker series, right? Like
yeah,
the AI things,
yes,
but the original AI, not this technology AI, right?
yep.
Allen Iverson.
I have some
Uh,
upstairs. Actually, hold on.
there you go.
Look at these
There you
guys.
go. There you go. See that? See
Yeah.
that? So, um, just like obviously with Hertz and being a Super Bowl MVP, and they ran the Love, comma Hertz campaign right after the Super Bowl, right?
Mhm.
And then with Saquon Barkley being on the cover of Madden, right? And then that all, like, a lot of attention, right, on
Yeah.
the birds here, but just interesting to see how the modern day brands, do their thing, right? As somebody who's
Yeah.
been in that industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, for those that don't know, I worked at Reebok and Adidas for a couple years, uh, several years ago, hence my, shoe collection over here and my sort of, the number of shoes I have upstairs. But yeah, so I was in that Reebok brand and talk about some of the hardest selling I've ever done in my life was selling Reebok shoes, about 10 years ago when going up against Jordans and Nikes and Adidas and New Balances and all, Under Armour and so forth. And some of the hardest selling I've ever done. But if you haven't seen the documentary on Netflix around Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson, they're,
That's new.
what's that?
I think it's only like a month old.
Yeah, it's about a month old. Yeah, yeah, it's really good though. So Shaq sort of took over the basketball operations. It was fun watching that show. All the people that he interacts with, I knew a lot of them, and so it's sort of cool seeing people that on Netflix. How often does that happen? But yeah, I'm really curious to see what Shaq and what Iverson do as far as turning the basketball program around at Reebok here. They have a long way to go. They signed a couple folks and are creating some new shoes. So we'll see how that goes. But that's something else to sort of follow if you're a geek, if you're a shoe geek like
I'm
I
gonna
am.
go. I'm gonna go watch that. I'll give you one story on the way out the door here. Um, so when Iverson came into the league, his mother was very much a part of his business arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
So when he signed that sneaker deal, she had them put a stipulation in there with the sneaker people that he couldn't get access to any of the money until he was 50. He just turned 50. So think about that. All that money was sitting in there collecting interest. And this
Wow.
guy could not touch one penny of it until he turned 50.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
Yeah.
lucky that she did that, because it's unfortunate, and we all hear the thing like, hey, the average lifespan of an NFL player is like 3 years, right? Not the guys that we all see on Madden, but like the regular guy that's like, whatever, the guy you don't know about, the kick returners or whatever. And a lot of them are broke, like not long after they're out of their respective profession, professional sports. So, like, unfortunately, Allen Iverson did not manage his money well, and he was hard up there for a while. And then 50 came just this year, bam, all that money unlocked.
There it is.
Thank God they did that, or else he'd be in trouble.
It's a good story. I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Fact check me, guys. Go Google it. It's a thing.
I love it. I love
Only reason I know that story is because I listen to a lot of sports radio. But anyway,
it.
uh, Aaron, where do people find you and Zero Networks, and how do they reach out? How do they learn more? Hit it.
Yeah, so connect with me on LinkedIn. So again, Aaron Peterik. You can find us at zeronetworks.com. We are very active when it comes to social media and on LinkedIn as far as educating the channel, educating the market on segmenting and remote access controls and identity segmentation. We didn't even get into that today. So we are very, very active on that on social media. So connect with us on LinkedIn. Again, Zero Networks. Connect with me on LinkedIn to see where I'm going to be from an MSP event standpoint. I'll be at ChannelCon here in a couple weeks, and we got all sorts of events coming up in the back half. So excited to see you all in person and hopefully I can go out and buy you guys a coffee or a beer.
They'll probably take you up on the beer, just my guess.
Good.
Guys, this session was absolutely recorded. Go back and watch not just this one, but the original one so you can learn more about what we're talking about at mspinitiative.com under sessions. That goes to podcatchers and YouTubes and all sorts of stuff. You'll get in whatever format you want it in. Definitely make sure that check out the stuff on the back end of the year. Like Aaron said, lots of good stuff. I know, you know, everybody's always evented out by the time you get to the Q4 there, but that's when everything explodes. So we'll be out there. You'll see Aaron, you'll see us. Watch these, follow up, connect with everyone. Catch you on the flip side, Aaron. Keep rocking,
Yes.
everybody.
Thank you all.
All right, guys. See ya.